gardening advice from the Bruce Company. And I'm here today with Gail Stroh, and we've got a list of topics to cover from mostly with the sort of overriding theme of winter preparedness for your yard and garden. So remember that if you like or post a comment or ask us a question or share this, whether you do it while we're live or whether you do it after the fact, you are in the running for a $10 gift card randomly chosen by the people that are engaging. So go ahead and do that. It's just, click like or whatever you want to do. And I think that we will get right into the topics. So Gail, what's first on the list today?
Well, we had talked about some of with the weather that's freezing now, how we might prevent the water for the birds from freezing.
Right.
And so we thought we'd show them a couple options as far as what they could do to have open water for the birds.
And so, this would be in like bird feeders or your pond, bird baths.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we do have some heated bird baths that you can put out for your birds. And this is a dish that actually has, got to move it the right way here, that has a cord and it's got a heating element actually right in the dish. And so what you do is you take this out, you plug it in, and your birds just sit in the water here, and they can drink, they can take a bath, they can feel real comfortable. And in the winter when it's really cold, they can come here and just warm up. Okay, so that's one option. And then there's also a different kind that is we don't have this one out, but it has let's see, move it over into the picture here. It's a bird bath that, again, has the heating element contained in the dish. You can either put it on a pole or you can put it on your deck rail. And so it's a heated bird bath that the birds would enjoy during the winter.
And that one's really good because you can watch that one. If you have it on your deck railing, you can watch it. And I showed Gail a video from my house on Sunday, and I had a flock of pine siskins in our little water feature. There must have been a dozen of them in there.
Yeah, that will attract more birds in the winter when you have open water. And then there's things like this that are just a heating element that you would put in your bird bath and plug in, and then this will keep your water open during the winter. So there are many options for bird baths over the winter, and we'd be happy to help you find one that would work for you. So that's certainly something that...
We have a floating kind of thing for ponds as well, right?
Basically, the pond heater, which is right over there, is a disc. And why don't you talk for just a second? Let me go grab one.
So basically what it is, it sort of floats in the pond, and it keeps a small area clear of ice. And so it allows oxygen to go in and out of the pond, because even though your fish are really super dormant, they're still breathing a little bit.
Yeah, it allows for gas exchange in the pond. And so what you do is you put this nice little floating disc in your pond, and it will keep an air hole open. It doesn't keep the whole pond open, but it keeps an air hole open so that they can get oxygen in and allow for other gases that the fish are giving off to get out of the pond. So this is a great idea to put in your pond so that it doesn't freeze up solid, which we're a ways off from yet. But
I think we are, but
yeah.
I mean, I was at the grocery store yesterday at about 4:30, and there were some snowflakes. And about 6 people, we all stopped in the parking lot and did this.
Yep.
And then we all laughed at each other. So it's on its way. You can't escape it.
So this is something that a lot of people who have fish in their pond will want to put in. You need to keep an air hole open in the pond so the fish can survive. If you don't do that, they're going to die. But if you do this, yeah, that's right. So this would be very helpful.
And so that sort of segues into our next topic, which is, if you're not, say you have a concrete bird bath and you're not interested in using a heater. So we were going to talk about what you do with sort of your lawn and garden ornaments, what's suitable to leave outside for winter, and what do we need to protect. And so let's start with bird baths, because we were there.
Well, if you have one of those pottery bird baths, it's good to either bring it inside completely. Some people will just turn the top over upside down. So you don't ever want water accumulating in that and then freezing, because freezing in that pottery or clay bird bath will break it.
Yes.
So either bring the whole top inside and maybe even the bottom, or at least turn it upside down. For a cement one, you can probably, sometimes people let them outside, but again, better if you can at least turn the top upside down or tip it over. Just not a good idea to let water freeze in the bird bath itself.
Especially if you get a little crack or a chip, water gets in there and it'll freeze and thaw, and it'll just
gets into the cement, and then the expansion and contraction in the cement will actually cause fractures in the item. So good idea not to let them out.
And so a lot of you might have concrete statuary or pots, and I know a lot of people leave those out. I know I do benches, indeed. I think that it's good to keep them, maybe lift them up off the ground a little bit if you need to leave it out so you don't run into it with
standing directly on soil on the ground.
Right.
If it's on either a block cement patio or a gravel, if there's gravel underneath, as long as it can't absorb moisture from the soil, it probably will be okay to get through the winter, and it doesn't accumulate
You can
water.
put like a 2x4 or something under it. I've always found that like when it's on a walkway or on your porch where your shovel is, you want to like get it up off that ground too, or off that surface so that you don't bang into it.
Yep, good idea.
Oh, we've got a question. So Bonnie says, a few days ago, we split and transplanted some hostas. With the cooler temps, how often do we need to, and how much do we need to water? Well, Bonnie, since you have moved them around, you're going to need to make sure it gets a good soak. I'd say once a week until the ground starts to freeze, which could be as late as like Thanksgiving-ish. And since you move them late, I would definitely put down a mulch. So get a bag of mulch or some marsh hay or straw, put it in your garage, and then when the ground starts to freeze around Thanksgiving, put a nice cover of mulch. You're not keeping the ground warm or the hosta warm. What you're wanting to do is to keep the ground cold, as just like in the water in pots, as it freezes and thaws, if the plants are nicely rooted, they can heave out, and then the roots are exposed, and then you lose them that way. So give it a good coat of mulch and water once a week for, I'd say, for the next 6 weeks.
And we never know, if we get plenty of rain, it won't be quite as important, but until the ground freezes, you want to keep that very moist and let the roots, because the roots will continue to grow until the ground is frozen.
Yes, so just water and a little bit of protective mulch, it should be fine. Oh, and we have another question from Gloria. How do I prepare my blue hydrangeas for winter? Okay, so Gloria, most of the blue hydrangeas, or going to be a show off, Hydrangea macrophylla or big leaf hydrangeas, most of the newer varieties bloom on new wood. And so you really don't have to go to the extent of the protecting the winter buds as we used to with the older varieties. But I would just leave it alone. If you want to put some mulch on it after the ground is frozen to protect some of those buds on the stems, and then next spring is when you're going to do your pruning. As the new growth starts to unfurl and expand, then you'll see what you had winter kill on. You can cut that out, but that plant should come new from the base. And if it's a more recent variety, you'll get some flowers from that brand new growth. So just leave it alone. Any thoughts, Gail?
Well, and they do bud out really late in the spring. So don't prune them too early or too severely.
Yes.
A lot of times people take them back too far and then they remove the flowering buds.
Wait till you see what's coming up from the ground. And if you want to keep it blue or bluer, as blue as you can here in Wisconsin with our more alkaline soil, is it a good time to apply some soil sulfur?
Yeah, they can put sulfur on now. It probably isn't going to break down and acidify the soil until next year, but they certainly could put some on, or next spring.
Yeah.
But soil sulfur is what you would want to use to give you that nice blue color on a hydrangea to acidify your soil.
More mauvey here. And the good news is I know people who live on the East Coast where they're all like as blue can be. They want them to be pink.
Oh, well,
so they're putting
they
down,
put lime on.
they're putting lime on. So there you go.
Okay.
Nobody's ever happy with what they have.
Oh, well.
Yes. So, okay. So we were going to talk a little bit about, we talked about statuary and that kind of thing. And what about pots, Gail?
Well, in containers, some containers can be left outside, especially plastic and metal. So if you're going to put out winter greens or winter branches, it might not be a bad idea to use a metal or plastic pot for that.
Sure.
Then you don't have to worry about it. If you have pots that are ceramic and you want to make sure they don't crack over the winter, because again, those can absorb, the pottery can absorb moisture and freeze and thaw, might be a good idea to bring it in to your garage at least, so it doesn't accumulate water and that moist soil doesn't, expand and contract. So good idea to protect those. You could actually move it into a protected corner and cover it with a tarp or
Right.
a cover
That's
so
what
it
I do.
doesn't accumulate more moisture. Rain and snow don't get in there. That would be one way of handling it too. Again, it shouldn't be sitting directly on the soil and absorbing moisture from the soil.
Right.
So at least up on a concrete surface or on a gravel surface, or bring it into your garage, one or the other.
So we did see that northern Wisconsin is getting some wintry mix this afternoon. And so we're going to start thinking about trying to keep our walkways and steps and sidewalks and driveways a little skid free. And so every year we have some people that want to know about salting and the differences between salt and what we call de-icers.
Okay.
So
There are different products, and they have different. They're made up of different products. So sometimes you'll see there is just plain rock salt, and yes, that will melt ice, but it's also kind of hard on the surfaces, on concrete, on animal paws.
on animal paws especially.
Many of the newer de-icers are comprised of magnesium and chloride, or not just plain sodium chloride, but magnesium or other products. And this particular one is one of those that is a safer to use. It's safer for pet paws and pets to walk on. It's not as messy, and it isn't as harmful to plants too.
Right.
So if you're using it near beds and grass, it's not going to be as damaging and as drying and hard on your plants.
Now, what about temperatures? Because I know that like there's a certain temperature where salt, the sodium chloride, doesn't work as well. Do these go to lower temps?
They actually don't generally go down to as low of a temperature.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll go down to maybe, minus 10 degrees or 0, but you'll notice that they still will help to reduce the slipperiness, but they won't thaw ice down to as low of a temperature sometimes as regular rock salt would. But at least it's better than nothing, or using sand, which is so messy. Sand
That's
can be
true.
very, very
And you
messy.
could use a combination
Yes.
too. In some areas where you have plants or where your dog is going out on your back patio, you can use the safer products, and then on your sidewalk, you can use salt. Where you really want to worry about like other people walking.
Right. So
Yeah.
these are just a little bit safer product than the old standby salt was.
So, and then I know that Halloween is coming up, and we got a question. Sorry, Donna. How can I protect my burning bush during the winter? She lost one in the winter of 2019 with the polar vortex.
So I'm guessing she's saying that it died over the winter rather than the rabbits chewing it down.
Of dead burning bushes last spring.
So that died because of the winter conditions, the cold and then the warm and then the cold again, which is really hard on things because they'll break dormancy if it warms up too much, say in March, and then it gets cold again. So that's very hard on things.
It was much more that weird spring weather in 2019 than it was the really cold temps that we had in the winter that really did in the burning bushes.
So mulching would obviously be very helpful, because if you can protect the roots, both from the extreme cold and also extreme dryness, that will help the plant to survive better over the winter. So watering in the fall until the ground freezes, and then also a good layer of mulch, like a shredded bark mulch, will help prevent those conditions from being problems.
And since it's a new burning bush and it's probably not very big, I would say a much more dangerous predator against its survival would be bunny rabbits. Yeah. And they'll chew on a lot of plants that you had newly put in this year: roses, Gail, burning bush. So maybe blueberries. This was not on our agenda, but we can talk about this. So we're talking about animal protection.
Yes. And so there are, if you have one of those plants or several of those plants that are susceptible to animal damage, I guess separate them out a little bit, because rabbits are going to be different than mice. First of all, we have a whole line of different repellents that you can use. You can sprinkle on granular repellents around the plants, and that does help to a certain degree because they don't like to get too close to those. But if there's a lot of snow and they're very, very hungry, even repellents aren't going to keep them away.
Well, if you have snowpack, sometimes they use the snow as a set of steps, and they can reach even higher.
In which case, you may choose to take chicken wire and build a cylinder around those plants. That will help. Again, remember that the snow is going to get a little higher, so you have to build this up high enough to accommodate for the snow cover. So what the other thing that I do is I put a cylinder around some of my plants to protect them. But if we get a lot of snow, I'll go out and actually stomp the snow down around the cylinder so they can't get over it when the snow gets that high. But that's a really good way to protect things. They get my blueberries every year if I don't put something around to protect them.
Now, couldn't you use, like on your blueberries or on things that are very small, you could use rose cones. And I know you've got one over there.
You could. But actually, my blueberries are bigger than this. So, but this does work well for, if you have roses or small plants. Let me get it into the picture here. And so if you wait until the ground freezes to put these on, don't put this on until they're very, very dormant. Because this would actually delay them from going dormant if you put it on too early. So we wait until the ground starts to freeze, which I tell people is for us sometime in November probably. Yeah, and then you can put some mulch maybe around the plant, or in roses, sometimes people will actually put compost over the crown of the plant. Wait till that freezes, and then you pop one of these rose cones on. And this is a paper rose cone, which is nice because it does, it's biodegradable. But remember that your rose cone should breathe. So these aren't holes that are, somebody damaged. These are actually air holes in here.
You can see inside.
We want, this is going to insulate the plant, but we also want for some air circulation in here so the mold doesn't build up inside here. But then this would stay on, and you can either put a rock on top or something to hold it in place so it doesn't blow away. This is going to stay on until the ground actually starts to thaw out in the spring. So this will actually keep the ground frozen around the plant. It'll keep that soil from freezing, thawing. And so it does help. And you can use this on, like you said, other plants too, not just roses. It will work for lots of different smaller plants.
If your burning bush is very small, that's a super easy way to protect it from rabbits. So you mentioned mice, and so mice are a little bit different than rabbits.
Yeah, because mice can get through chicken wire because they're small enough.
Right, and they gnaw down low. Like they can't get up as high as rabbits. And they don't like bite plants. Right. They just tear at the bark.
Yeah. So you can use tree wrap. You can actually wrap your trunks in tree wrap. You can use those spiral plastic tree guards on them because they don't chew through those. But otherwise, if you have young trees that you want to protect, this is hardware cloth, which are the very small, tiny holes in the wire. And when you make a cylinder going around your tree trunk with this and you kind of push it down in the soil firmly, mice won't be able to get through this.
Right, and that works for bowls too.
It does, yeah. So that would be a good way to protect from mice. And then also when you are dealing with mice and you don't want them to get into your house, because this is the time of year where mice are going to try and get in. They want a nice warm place to spend the winter also, and they can get
cats pay their rent.
Oh, that's nice.
Getting mice right now.
Oh, that's nice. But if you don't have cats and you don't want them coming in, then there are other products that you can put around. Like this is a mint scented pellet that you can sprinkle around the foundation of your house.
Oh, that's cool.
And it repels them. So
at
least
poison them. So I know people feel weird about using traps and baits and things.
Apparently mice don't like mint. So if you put this around your foundation, at least we'll ward them off a little bit and keep them from getting too close. And the same thing if you have boats, campers, small rooms, this is mouse away. And this is a little packet of mint scented, very strongly mint scented packets that you can put in enclosed areas.
Okay.
And then they tend to stay away from those too. Otherwise, we have little moisture resistant boxes of mouse bait that you can put out around the foundation of your house too. Traps will also work, but we want to keep the mice from coming in. So if you've had a problem with that in the past, now is the time to get started on watching for that.
So Gail had a really funny question for me yesterday because she said that a customer called in and asked what, Gail?
He said, I had rabbits that chewed my Christmas lights. He put his Christmas lights up and said the rabbits, he was pretty convinced it was rabbits. And it may have been because it happened fast, chewed through the cords on his Christmas lights.
Yes. And so Gail asked me if I had this happen on a regular basis, and I don't. Like maybe once a year, somebody will come in with a problem. So I don't think it's super pervasive. But Gail has some tips for how you can stop it. And then we're going to talk about Christmas lights just a little bit.
Yeah, and squirrels. I mean, the other thing he said was squirrels or rabbits. So
I think it's probably more likely to be squirrels.
Yeah, and you know they do what they do. They chew. So we might want them to just go choose something else. So this is a hot pepper extract repellent, which should work pretty well for squirrels. There are other squirrel repellents too, but they're spray on things that squirrels don't like. So if you have a problem with squirrels either chewing on your cords or on other things that you have out in your yard, make sure that you spray them with some kind of substance that they don't like. Usually this is enough to make them want to go somewhere else and chew on
So once
sticks.
you've got your lights up, then you can spray
Yes.
them. That being said, it's a good time to kind of check your lights out and see if you had some damage that you didn't know about. I'm a huge advocate of putting lights out now because the weather is nicer and your cords aren't getting really stiff and you're not out there and it's windy and terrible and you're cursing the name of lights or whatever because you don't want to be out there. So this is a really good time to do it. The month of October and early November, you don't have to turn your lights on until you want to turn them on. So this is a good time to check them out, see if they're working, see if you need to replace any lamps. Come in and see us if you've got some problems. We've got a lot of really new, cool products in this year. This year, we're really excited. These are LEDs, and these are what they call RGB, not RBG, but RGB, and it stands for red, blue, green. And what it is each one of these lights has a diode of those colors, and then they can be combined to form millions of other colors. So this particular string does all kinds of tricks. It's indoor, outdoor. It's really snappy. We've got it in a couple sizes. And we also have a really good selection of all the different colors of LEDs and some of your regular incandescents too, and timers and all that kind of paraphernalia that goes with it. So stop in if you've got questions. It seems like it's going to be a big light year because we've already sold out of some product. So come on in early if there's something in particular that you need or you need to replace. And I was going to end up with something, but did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I was just going to remind people there's still plenty of time to plant bulbs, garlic. You know, if you haven't done those yet, you know, the ground isn't frozen. I know the weather outside is kind of cold, but don't forget, you've got plenty of time to get those things in the ground yet.
Yes.
So.
And then I was just going to talk a little bit about pumpkins. I know that Halloween is coming and we're starting to carve pumpkins. And I was doing a little bit of research online yesterday and discovered there's a way that if you want to carve a little bit early, how you can keep your carved pumpkins lasting a little bit longer. And basically, it's all about disinfecting. And so what they suggested was after you've carved your pumpkin and you've cleaned it all out and you want the surfaces to be really smooth, so get all the seeds and guts and make sure your cuts are very smooth and you don't have jagged bits in there. Put it in a bucket of 10% bleach and water and soak it. Even overnight, they said that it will hydrate the pumpkin and also the bleach will retard growth of fungus and mold and all kinds of bacteria. And then if you get a spray bottle every day or so, you can go and spritz it. And that's especially good if you're a carver who doesn't do all your carving where you're, piercing it and you just sort of clean off the outer surface and then let the light shine through the flesh of the pumpkin. So there you go. Yeah.
Pumpkin won't get COVID
either. There you go. It keeps them safe from all kinds of things. And so we're just going to remind you all that that if you're watching this now, to like or share us or make a comment, and you're in the running for that $10 gift card. And you can do that after the fact too. So if you're coming across this after Taylor posts it and Gail and I are finished up, then that still works as well. And we will announce the winner. What are you pointing at, Taylor?
Fall kit.
Oh, the fall kit. Right. That's right. So we tried, I forgot all about this. So thanks, Taylor. So we tried a little thing this year for the kids. And we thought that because we weren't doing Fall Fest, that it would be fun to kind of put together a kit of some of the things that we do at Fall Fest. Pumpkin painting, not balloon carving. That would not be fun. Balloon blowing. I know. That would be really super fast. And there are some QR codes for videos, for ideas, and also a word search and a coloring thing. And we have these available, and it's getting close to Halloween. So we're going to do a little flash sale this week. So starting tomorrow through Sunday, the regular price on these is $18.99, which basically just covers the cost of the materials in here. We're going to sell them for $9.99. So stop into the store or email us at plantdesk@brucecompany.com. If you want us to give you a call and set one aside, we would be so happy to do that. It'd be fun for the kiddos and fun for the family. And I think that, as long as your kids are around 5, there are lots of things in here that they can do. So there you go. Stop in and get the fall family fun pack, or share us, like us, or comment. We'll for sure answer your questions. And we will see you next week. Today's the 20th, so it'll be the 27th at 4. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but it will be something interesting. And just a reminder too, for later and for you do not have to ask us questions that are on topic. You can ask us any gardening questions. If you wanted to ask something that wasn't necessarily going to be covered, we can think on the fly, and we'll just answer whatever you need to know within reason. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week. And you all have a good week. Happy planting.